And I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hairloss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
What's happening, Joe? I have to say that if you really ever wanted to convince me not to shave my head, you succeeded. Because that image fucking mortified me, yo. I'm like Dan Aykroyd from Saturday Night Live back in 1977 with the Coneheads.
It's what I do, man.
It's fucking horrendous, man.
That's great. It's great inspiration. Coneheads, the original. A lot of people don't know that.
No, not the young people.
Don't remember that.
God, that's fucking depressing, man. You fucked me up. I mean, I wasn't kidding. That left a mark. I saw it this morning. You sent it to me. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I got enough haters out there.
Well, maybe that'll, turn some of them into followers because they're like, he's one of us now. He went for it. He called up Harry. He's going to be on next week for Bald Cafe.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because I did, I invited Harry to be on the faculty of Global Hair Loss Summit. I really wanted physicians to have the opportunity to see what this guy was doing and to maybe guide people in his direction if they weren't candidates for surgery. Now, I know that's probably not going to happen. Maybe a handful of doctors will do that. But I still thought that what he has been providing people is a tremendous service that physicians in this industry should know about. But I did tell Harry, if I ever decide to shave my head, and if he's still doing his channel, that I will do it on his channel. You fucked that up for Harry just now.
No, Harry's looking at that and he's rubbing his hands. He's like, clicks and views galore.
No, that's just not going to happen yet. After that image, if my head is actually that big underneath my hair like this, then there's no way I could possibly do it. I couldn't even put a piece on that thing. It would be floating on the top of my head. Like it would be 12 inches above my eyebrows.
It really would be. That's hilarious.
Well, anyway, you might want to tell people why you decided to do this clickbaity thing today.
Well, that's just it. It's not really clickbait. I mean, it is and it isn't. And Mr. Rolandes, I don't know if he's in the chat right now, but he said on my Instagram at Joe Tillman Official, officially passed 5,000 the other day. Thank you very much. Thanks for your support. Thank you. He said, smells like clickbait and not in a good way, or something.
Yeah,
something that
he has an interesting way of utilizing language. Let's put it that way.
Yes, he does. And he's right and he's not right. Like it is clickbait, but it's not clickbait because there is a relevant reason for the title that I put onto the thumbnail. And the part that's definitely clickbait is Bald Spencer. No question about it.
Well, I'm going to explain something before you continue.
That was just fun.
I was contacted by someone who was interested in considering seeing a doctor, and asked me what my experience was like with this doctor. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I just happened to look around a little bit, and I found out why this person asked me this question.
Really?
Really.
That's where that comes from.
That's where this comes from. So, with that said, it was definitely, apparently it's working for either this particular doctor or the person who wanted this to happen. I can't blame the physician himself because I have no idea if he was involved in this.
Yeah.
But apparently, according to Wikipedia, I had a hair transplant in 2018. with this guy, Dr. Bolton.
Spencer Kobren got the Bolton bundles. Here's the story, kids. He currently hosts the Bald Truth podcast on Friday, which can be seen on YouTube. He also is contributing editor to Consumer Digest magazine and hair loss content provider to WebMD. In 2018, he got a hair transplant, one word.
Spelled with one word.
As if it's like for keyword stuffing. You know, he got a hair transplant from Dr. Bolton. They didn't put Dr. Brett Bolton. They just put Dr. Bolton. Yeah. So,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. That's why the title was Spencer Kobren. Let's talk about Spencer Kobren's hair transplant. I didn't say he actually got one. Wikipedia says he got one. Of course, we all know how reliable the old Wikipedia is.
You know what's funny about Wikipedia? Now, it's great. You know, when I first got a page on there, I had no idea how I got the page. I didn't put up a page. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. That's why there's no image of me or any history of me from my younger years or other things that I've done. Somebody who was a fan of the program or whatever put up this page many years ago. And great, there's something on the Bald Truth, too. And it was very limited. Said what I did. I mean, initially, I remember it saying that I was a #1 best-selling author, which is true. Mm-hmm. And then someone edited that out because they couldn't find any reference or some bullshit like that. But the fact of the matter is the reference is out there. I was one of the first Amazon.com #1 bestsellers before people even understood that Amazon.com was going to be something. I never forget when my publisher, Simon & Schuster, congratulated me, sent me the award, and said that you're in Amazon.com #1 bestseller. And he says, this is what my editor says. He goes, you know, I mean, it's digital. It's not like the New York Times, but you know, it's still good. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, you have to sell the same amount, but you know, it's not looked at as, you know, as important as the New York Times back then. And what's funny about that is what people don't understand about New York Times bestsellers is books have to really be sold in brick-and-mortar bookstores in order to become a New York Times bestseller, especially back in the day. So New York Times bestsellers were made, not necessarily because people wanted to go out and buy these books, but publishing houses would put a certain amount of money behind a book and advertising behind the book, and also work with Barnes & Noble and other booksellers to put the book in the front of the store, to do big promotions for the book, and to ensure that a certain amount of books were sold within a certain amount of time. In some cases, and this is being done on Amazon now, in some cases, I'm not going to say which books, these books were purchased through one company from a bookseller to automatically make it a New York Times bestseller. No one knows that shit. Now, apparently, people are trying to do, or have been doing this in Amazon at least the last 5 years or something like that. I don't know. You know, all I know is back in the day, before I knew anything, the book was published, and all of a sudden I was at Amazon.com #1 bestseller. I don't understand why I need to tell that story, but I guess part of the reason is what you see on Wikipedia, whether it's me or somebody else, you need to take all the shit with a grain of salt. The fact that someone was able to go in there, create an account, put an edit as though it was fact with no reference, that Spencer Kobren had a hair transplant in 2018 with a particular doctor. And what's comical about this is the doctor's not even a member of the IHS. I have nothing against this doctor. The only experience I've ever had with this particular doctor is that he applied to the IHS in maybe in 2009 or 8, something like that. I don't know the exact year. We took a really good look at him. We decided not to accept him into the organization, and he was one of the guys that took it like a fucking man. Didn't bitch about it. He told, actually there was a guy that was working for him, said they totally understand, they appreciate my time because I contacted patients. I did a lot of work. And I said that they can apply in another year, and they never did.
Was that assistant the one that moved to Texas?
Maybe that was him. Yeah, I think it was the same guy. Yeah, I think it was the same guy. But very respectful, and Bolton was very respectful. Now, normally when I reject doctors over the years, now it's a little different, but especially back in the day, these guys I became public enemy number one to these guys.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if this guy would make this happen himself. It's possible that he has a SEO company that's working for him. It's possible that it's somebody else. Who knows? It's possible someone's doing it as a goof. I don't know. But I can tell you this. There are people out there that think I had a hair transplant by this guy Bolton now.
It's pretty rich. I mean, it's when you first showed it to me, I cracked up. I still think it's hilarious.
That's funny. Women's Hair Loss Project just wrote in your chat. She said, at least they could have said I went to Hassan and Wong or somebody.
Well, you'd think, yeah, like that would be more believable. But apparently, you had a come to Jesus moment and went to.
Oh, it's terrible. That is terrible.
Sorry.
I didn't iron this shirt well today. Or maybe my pecs are just gotten so big that it's tight. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, guys, phone number is 888-659-3727. I think this is just an important example of, the value of physicians' credentials, the fact that you can't believe everything that you see online. Well, I am, I do have a Wikipedia page, and I've done all these things, and I am an author, and I founded these organizations and all this happy horse shit. There's misinformation, disinformation, purposely put.
Mm-hmm.
And no one has checked it yet. This was put up in December. I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens. It's not the end of the world. But it could eventually make someone think, I'm going to go to this doctor because Spencer Kobren went to him. So if anyone is considering going to any doctor, I have some more stories about that. If someone says to you that they performed surgery on me, I've never had hair transplant surgery. This isn't the first time this has happened. This is the first time I've ever seen it in something that's supposed to be an online encyclopedia. But over the years, people have said that doctors have claimed that either I went in for a consultation with them, which is possible, or that I've had some work done by them. There was a doctor in New York that claimed that for a long time until I had to call him out on it.
I don't remember that. Did you tell me about that?
This is before your time. At least before your time with me.
Ah, okay. Still, ooh.
This is the beginning of my career.
Okay, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Just after the Civil War. Got it. Crickets. Hello?
I'm reading the chat. That Bolton has a video with 13 million views. Doubt anyone in hair will ever beat that record. It's very possible.
I doubt anyone wants to pay for it.
Pay for what?
Just me. I don't know.
Oh, 13 million views. Listen, again, I have nothing against this guy. I know he's had some problems in the past. At least his office has only treated us with respect. I don't know how this got on Wikipedia, but it's funny and fucked up as shit at the same time.
Answering Ralph, does Bolton still use a multi-blade scalpel? I don't know. I remember watching one of his videos from within the past 5 years, and he was using a double-bladed scalpel in that video, which is, wow.
Look, I have nothing good or bad to say. He's not a part of what we do, we can't recommend him. And I never had a hair transplant by him. That's it. So let's see what happens on Wikipedia this week. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Again, I have yet to have a hair transplant. On my Instagram, I think it was Graham wrote something about, how he can't believe that I've never had a procedure because I must have had a lot of pressure over the years and just being involved in the field. And I have. Doctors have offered me work.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors that you know very, very well, Joe, have offered me work.
Oh yeah,
Intimately, that you know, have offered
you
me
and me both.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know that.
It may have been
that.
you, actually,
Yes.
that contacted me at one point. I don't remember.
On behalf of someone, maybe?
Yes, I think it was. And I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind?
No, you didn't say that to me.
That's what I thought.
If I called.
I thought I said that to you.
But you thought that.
Yeah.
But you've never said that to me.
And, you know, listen, it's not, you know, there's a faction of guys, young guys, who are now that my Instagram is growing and I'm putting out stuff almost every day, I haven't done it in the last 2 days. And we're really focusing on trying to educate young guys about the reality of this surgery. And there's a certain segment of young guys who just think, oh, you're just pro-FUT, which is ridiculous. And then there's a segment of, you know, of guys who are like, well, then what else do we do? You know, and they think that I'm just talking about older people who had procedures done 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And in today's environment, this cannot happen to them. So I decided to do is I'm doing a series, which is going to be up on my YouTube channel, which there's nothing really up there yet. But it's a hair loss podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I interviewed Adrian, our friend Adrian from Melbourne.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to be the first guy that we really interviewed kind of like in an intimate way where, you know, guys who have been fucked up in the past were able to come out face forward and talk about their experiences. And the reason I chose him is because no matter what people say, even though Adrian is about my age, he started at a time when a lot of people were being fucked up. The fact of the matter is he started with larger punch grafts in his journey. There's really very little difference between the 4mm punch grafts and FUE grafts that are being moved today, except for the volume. You know, there's less scarring. But in essence, it's a very similar procedure, meaning that young guys who are getting grafts punched out of the back of their heads and moved into the front of their heads could be fucked up just as easily as this guy was fucked up. And there was only, 30 or 40 or 100 grafts that were moved at the time. So these young guys are staring at potentially, I can't even speak, potentially their futures when they're looking at a guy like Adrian, what he went through. Now, it would be a different situation. You know, obviously, you know, when you're talking about 4mm plugs, even when they grew in, they look like shit. But these young guys who are getting thousands of grafts moved at a single session, these young guys who are going into 21 or 22, they have no idea that they are in this for life. And the hair that is moved today is likely not going to continue to grow in 5 years or 6 years or 10 years. And if all stars aren't aligned perfectly, they're looking at a lifetime of trying to fix the issue that should never have happened to begin with. Does that make sense, Joe?
It makes a lot of sense. And it reminds me, you know, the same issues that we had to be careful of 10, 20 years ago, we have to be just as careful, if not more so today. Because it reminds me of that video I did, the live stream I did 2 days ago, where I was doing a reaction to this guy's video named DJ that did have a hair transplant. He had FUT. Donor scar looked fine for an FUT scar. And then after 3 years of taking medication, because he didn't start taking medication until 3 years ago instead of when he had his surgery 9 years ago. He took it for 3 years, had, in general, an improvement, a big improvement for the crown, even though he had some ups and downs throughout his experience, and decided to stop taking finasteride 3 months ago, 90 days ago. And he's already lost everything and some of his hair transplanted hair, or his transplanted hair. And that's the same kind of thing that people were dealing with 20 years ago. You know, wondering if they should be on medication. Same questions, same outcomes. And this thing with, you know, what Adrian went through and what I went through in the early 90s.
Yeah.
He went through, his plug surgery before I ever went through my stuff. It is the exact same situation, but worse.
It's worse now. Yeah.
It's worse now than it's ever been. And, I was kind of chuckling to myself when you're talking about how 4mm plugs, it's really no different today. It's just a smaller punch. And I was thinking of the heresy that you just uttered and how the pitchforks would have been coming out 10 years ago, 15 years ago online. Kobren saying it's punch surgery, and it's like, that's exactly what it's punch plug surgery, exactly like it was 40 years ago.
It was actually the original punch surgery. Sadly, and this.
Yeah.
I mean, there were two Japanese surgeons before World War II in the 1930s who were doing these procedures. One was using a larger punch, one was using a smaller punch.
Yeah.
The information and the papers were lost during World War II. Norman Orentreich picked up this information, and he chose to essentially reinvent hair transplant surgery using a larger punch.
Yep.
Easier to move more grafts at once. To him, it made sense. He already knew the theory of donor dominance was, proven, but he reproved the theory of donor dominance. And people like Walter Unger and other people followed suit. And I was telling Adrian during his interview, all the fucking luminaries out there, all the people that are revered by the ISHRS and their statues and this and that, these are the guys, in my view, who destroyed more lives for more decades than anyone in this fucking field. But now it's happening all over again. But they're just using smaller punches. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. We're going to take some phone calls. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
It's Morty from Brooklyn.
Oh, my God, Morty. How do you get on first every time? I can't even, you know what? It's funny because my phone system is so old that the numbers are a little faded, like the glass. I don't know if it's got some moisture in there at some point. So I really have to look closely before I choose these numbers. And I always choose you, man. What's happening?
I've got the cell phone number, so I sneak in there. No, I'm kidding.
So what's going on?
Oh, not much. So as I think I may have mentioned this already. I had my second procedure now. I think now it's exactly 1 month because I had it in the first week of December. Here we are in the first or second week of January, so it's just a little over a month. All the grafts fell out as expected, which is sad, but expected.
Of course.
The hair is growing back. The transplanted hair is growing back. It's growing back a little bit patchier, but then again, I had it long for so long, so I'm really not even sure what the actual density is. I may or may not have a little bit of shock loss in the recipient area, which is a little bit concerned, but I'm hopeful that it should all come back once the new grafts start to sprout. But yeah, that's what's going on with that. Having a fair amount of pimples, oddly this time around in the donor area.
Really?
It's like a lot of, yeah. The first time around, it didn't, I didn't get too much in the way of pimples in the donor. This time around, I'm getting more. Dr. Cole changed his method of operation. Whereas during my first procedure, he did this thing called platelet-rich fibrin in the donor area. This time,
dude, you walking in there, you're just like a fucking guinea pig, man. You know what I would have done then? I'd be like, listen, whatever you did the first time, do it again.
Well,
it's true. What Spencer would be like, if Spencer heard that anywhere he'd go, they say, yeah, we're going to try something new. There'd be like a Spencer-shaped hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And you'd be hearing,
No, I would be like, listen, that's not going to happen, Doc.
Commercial, right?
It's not going to happen, Doc. I really appreciate everything that you're doing for me, but let's keep it exactly the same.
Anyway, so that's kind of new. On the plus side, the way that it worked this time is he bandaged the donor area, whereas before he didn't. With the PRF, he put these little drops on there, and then you had to keep it open for like the first 12 hours.
Yeah.
And you couldn't lie down on the sides. That was kind of nightmarish. This time I was actually able to like lie down on it, but me being who I was, I still ended up sitting up until 2 a.m. day after surgery because I wasn't taking any chances.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I'd be like in an anti-gravity chamber. Yeah. I would hire people to hold me up all night.
Yeah, exactly. Don't let me lean over.
Yeah.
So that was new. A couple of other things that are new. I did the hyperbaric chamber day after surgery and second day after surgery. So that was also new. I've done the hyperbaric chamber at Dr. Cole's before. It actually really helped me when I had caught COVID. It helped me to get rid of a cough I had. So interesting there. Yeah. Because I read some.
Joe's been struggling with a cough for 9 months now.
Well,
feels like it.
I tell you something. I had when I caught COVID that time, I had it for a while. I actually ended up having to do a round of steroids and all this shit to get rid of it. The steroids never fucking work for me. The only thing they do is give me insomnia. But hyperbaric helped. The other thing that helped me the last time that I really had a bad cough, believe it or not, is dark chocolate.
Did you get the lead-filled chocolate from Trader Joe's?
Yeah, that'll knock out your cough, among other things. Then you got me coughing. So that was different. It's funny because Dr. Cole wanted me to do a TED afterwards, and I was like, I ain't touching this thing. That's why I had to draw the line because, the lady's like, oh, you really shouldn't be doing TED on anybody until at least 6 months after surgery. And I'm like, thank God she said that.
Which lady said that? What lady is this?
The TED lady.
So, the TED lady was there at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you really were a guinea pig. Okay, good stuff.
Well, come on, guys. How long have I been with Dr. Cole now, and how many crazy things have I done with him? Let's see if we can go over it for the audience, right? So I started out with fat-derived stem cells, exosomes, placental membrane, this cocktail of stuff that he put in my hair. Right?
And by the way, I want to let our listeners know that you're listening to a guy who volunteered to be in a clinical trial for the COVID vaccine. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I got my money for it too, which wasn't nearly enough, but yes. I mean, I'm a guinea pig. I like being a guinea pig. It really hasn't harmed me yet. Oh, God help me. It hasn't harmed me yet. But yeah, so I did all that stuff with Dr. Cole.
Did you sell your plasma during college for a few extra bucks?
I really hope you didn't sell your sperm, by the way.
No. No. Whenever I get into these trials, it's for a good reason. I mean, the COVID vaccine trial was basically to protect my now 86-year-old mother. That was basically why I got into it.
Yeah, but at the time, before they decided to say, you know what, we're not going to really do double blind. For the first few weeks, you didn't know what you were getting, right?
Well, so this particular trial was a double blind trial, but it was 1/3, 2/3. It wasn't half and half. So I was playing the odds were in my favor that I was going to be vaccinated, and that was how it worked for me. That's why I did it, because I was like, okay, I could just not do it, and then because I was still masking up and doing all the other crap at the time.
Right.
But I wanted to make sure that like I said, I see my mother every day. Thank God this weekend she's with my sister, but I see her every day, and this is an 86-year-old mother. I didn't want to get her sick.
But what a great excuse not to have to see your mother every day.
Damn it, man.
Yeah. You guys, you could have just been like, listen, we got a social distance. You know, we can cut the challah and do the prayers over Zoom.
Oh, you're too much, Spencer. I love you to death. So that's why I did it. The funny thing about that whole thing was that, you know, that was in like, I think it was December, January 2020, 2021. And like when the real vaccines came out in March, and I basically went to the clinical trial guys. I'm like, hey, can I get one of those magic cards? And I'm like, no, this vaccine was never approved by the federal government. And so I ended up having to get another vaccine on top of it just to get a fucking card. So that's just lovely. Oh, and you want to hear another side to the story. About 4 weeks ago, I had a job interview.
Yeah.
And on the job interview, they're like, "Are you boosted?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Well, you can't even come into our office for a job interview unless you're boosted." I'm like, motherfuckers, excuse my language.
So
I got boosted.
Listen. I'm not going to even get into this conversation. I'm not going to get into this conversation, but it's as though there's a certain segment of the population that either doesn't watch even the mainstream news at this point about the reality of things, and it's pretty nutty. It's pretty,
it is nutty.
It's pretty fucking nutty, man. I got to tell you that.
I don't want to go too much further down this rabbit hole because this show is about hair, not about vaccines. So we'll just leave it alone. But
no, but I think it's a good example for anyone who's listening not to listen to a thing Morty says. Because when Morty goes with his gut, it's not always the right move.
No, absolutely not. That's actually a good point. Everybody needs to make their own decisions when it comes to dealing with their hair loss. I mean, I was just speaking to Joe earlier this week, and I talked to him about something that he warned me about, and that is don't throw the kitchen sink at your hair loss. Okay.
Yep.
I am in the unenviable position of taking too many things. This was a question that had come up after seeing DJ's video, where DJ, he also was throwing the kitchen sink at his hair loss. He was doing minoxidil, he was doing finasteride, plus he was also doing some electromagnetic thing that he was talking about, and you know, a lot of different kind of wacky things that he was doing. And I mean, it makes for interesting content for his channel, which used to be called the Keratin Brotherhood. I think he's since changed it to something else. But you know, the problem with, and Joe, I'm going to repeat what you said and paraphrase, and if I'm saying it wrong, you can correct me. You know, when you start losing your hair, you want to throw everything in the kitchen sink at it, and if you've got the resources to do that, you're going to want to do that, but you probably shouldn't. What you should probably do is try one thing at a time in order. My mistake is that I started doing one thing at a time, but what I would do is I would add something, and then I wouldn't take something else off. And this is kind of the issue, because I got some initial small results from over-the-counter minoxidil, which is what I started with when I finally decided to address my hair. And then I switched over to a topical from Dr. Wesley, and I got a little bit more results. Actually, no. Let me correct that. I did store-bought minoxidil. I added in.
So do me a favor. Wake me up when this is over.
Yeah. Well, I can if I'm asleep.
Go ahead, Morty.
So to make a long story short, right now I'm using two different topicals. I'm using two different orals, and I'm like, you know something? I probably don't need all this shit in my body, but if I take something out, I might fuck something up.
Well, that's the thing, you know. I mean, and that's actually a really important point that you're making, especially for guys who are just getting into this game. When we started, every doctor was telling me, especially once finasteride was out, and I was on it for a long time before anyone was really prescribing it. But everyone was asking me, are you on minoxidil with finasteride? You really have to hit it with a 1-2 punch. And for a while, I was. I started on minoxidil because finasteride did not exist, or it did exist, but it wasn't approved until 1992 for BPH. So once people started to talk about it, once I read that article in the New York Times in 1994 and I got myself on it, I stayed on both medications. I chose to, because I felt that minoxidil was kind of waning already, even before I got on finasteride, to not get off of it quickly. I had just written the second the updated version of the Bald Truth when 5% minoxidil topical was approved. It used to be just 2.5%. So I wrote about my experience with it, but I always kind of felt it was just a Band-Aid. So I took over a year to wean off of it because I didn't want to be stuck on 2 medications, knowing full well that I probably wasn't doing that well on topical minoxidil. I was lucky enough not to go through a massive shed because I really did. It may have been 2 years I took to wean off of it. So I think that your story is important because so many people are on multiple medications needlessly. They don't know what the fuck is working for them. These doctors want to throw everything at it, especially when you're going in for a transplant as well, because they want to make sure that transplant is going to have the best yield possible. And they want you to be on everything and the kitchen sink and exosomes and, PRP and whatever else they can throw at it to give it a fighting chance. And I think that's a really bad fucking idea. Sorry, Morty.
Most of these doctors don't think about the fact that when they're adding all these other modalities into the hair transplant procedure, that they're actually encouraging more of a shed of any native hair that might be there to begin with. And I hear about this and I see it. I just think to myself,
never do it, man.
Are you trying to fuck this guy up, mentally, like seriously? It's like when the average hair transplant patient goes through the procedure, they have no clue what they're in for, and that's why early on in my career, I started telling people, the surgery it's hard to come up to the decision to have a hair transplant and then to actually figure out who the hell you want to go to. But all of that is a cakewalk. The surgery is a cakewalk compared to the recovery. Especially when you get the cracks in your scalp, the little gullies that form in between the scabs, and people are like, "What the hell happened? Why did they put hair there?" And then
I think the worst thing you can do is after surgery is to put something that can possibly cause inflammation or cause any type of irritation or dermatological issues on your fucking head.
But my point is they don't know that they need to give the scalp a chance to do what it's going to do, and and a lot of times they agitate the situation. They make it worse.
I know what your point is.
By tapping on all these other treatments, and any hair that they were supposed to lose from a shock of the procedure is amplified when you add some sort of treatment on there that also kicks in a telogen effluvium and look like a cancer patient.
Is what you do. A patient walks through your door, docs, you tell them, listen, how long are you on finasteride yet? If the answer is no, come back, take this medication, come back in 6 months, and then we could reassess. Let this kid's body adjust to being on the medication. Do not put him on a month before the surgery. Do not put him on a month after the surgery. Do not put him on the day of surgery. I'm not a doctor, but it's based on 25 years of experience. Let shit start to be working, as they would say in Joe's neighborhood. And then you can move on with potentially having surgery. There are guys who've started, even in 6 months, who got on the drug based on good advice, who decided they didn't even need to have surgery. They wanted to wait and see how much growth they would get because they were seeing early growth from finasteride. So Joe's point is well taken. It's an important point. And you're an example of what not to do, Morty.
Oh, stop it. I actually did finasteride for a good year before I actually got surgery. More than that.
Morty, as long as you call this show, I look at you like my little brother. I'm going to give you shit.
And I love you for it, Spencer.
And if we didn't love you, that wouldn't be happening. So
this is true.
Recognize that. Like every time I cut Joe off because we have a delay, I could sense it. I feel it coming through the camera. He's like upset that I cut him off. It's just the way it is. No, but it's not. Listen, it's not my fault and it's not his fault. We have a delay. It's just the way that it is, man. You know.
Yep.
So
well, you guys
Sorry,
put
what?
on an amazing show.
I heard my name. I'm texting with a doctor that wants to call in.
all right. Well, anyway, listen, Morty, we're going to let you go. We got more calls. We have a full board. Always love hearing from you. I'm glad you're doing well. Listen, I don't think any of the slight complications you're having right now is going to affect you in any way. At the end of the day, you're going to come away. You went to one of the best doctors in the industry. You're going to come away with another good result.
That's what I'm hoping for, and I have every reason to believe that. Guys, keep on rocking.
All right, brother.
Talk
Take
next
care.
week.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling.
I had an excuse not to have to see his mother every day. I didn't take it. All right, so what is this? We had 4 lines lit. I hang up on Morty. I didn't hang up on these people, and they all hung up. They get stage fright. Guys, it's a call-in show, 888-659-3727. If I don't get a call in the next minute or so, we go. We're here to take your phone calls. But apparently, I think Mr. Rolandis is a little disappointed in you, Joe.
I saw that.
He's not a fan of the clickbait, apparently. Now, I have to say that picture did leave a mark. It really mortified me when I saw that. But I was like, all right, I understand Joe's point. He didn't have to elongate my head that much.
I didn't elongate anything. All I did was erase your hair. Oh, goodness.
888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hello, guys. How are you? May from KZ.
May, what's happening, man? How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good. 6th day after operation.
All right. And so how are you feeling? How has the last week been?
My face was swell. I had swelling on my face, but now it's almost gone. But everything was pretty good. I didn't feel any discomfort, even a bit disappointed. So that surgery was not so invasive as I thought.
That's great.
Not bad. Stop не сглазить. Yeah. But I have a question about minoxidil and finasteride.
Sure.
Okay.
And the second question would be about Proscar, Propecia, and generics. But if the first question would take much time, we don't. Let's forget about second question. Well, what is the difference between follicles from my donor area and between follicles on top of my head? So follicles from my donor area are more resistant, have more level of resistance to DHT, right?
In general, yes.
Okay.
Especially if it's taken from the right
Okay.
part of the occipital region and from the right part of the sides.
Okay. And if we put them on the top of my head, they will grow. Yeah.
That's correct.
But on the other side, when I was using, someday I knew that I was balding. So I couldn't go outside without concealers, right? And I started to use minoxidil. And in the 6 months, I had hair growth, and I could go outside without concealers, right? But minoxidil, if I understand it correctly, minoxidil just increased blood supply, right?
Well, it's a vasodilator, so it also will help to kind of open up the blood vessels, and it will temporarily reverse in some cases the miniaturization process or slow it down.
Yeah.
It doesn't act hormonally.
Yeah, I don't understand. It doesn't act hormonally, and it has nothing to do with DHT, right?
That's correct.
But
correct.
It is still helped me.
Yes.
So the reason was So now I'm a bit confused. So my reason was that I just didn't have much of blood supply, but when I used minoxidil, my hair was growing, right?
No, your blood supply was
So
fine.
what-
Your blood supply on the scalp, especially the top of the scalp, is one of the most the richest blood supply that you have. Essentially, this is just opening and dilating the blood vessels so that your hair follicles can actually get those nutrients. So the blood supply was there. This is
More
just,
of the nutrients.
Yeah, it can get more of the nutrients. So the blood supply is there. Period. So it's not like if you hit if you scratch your scalp, if you ever nicked yourself on the top of the head, it doesn't matter if you're bald or not. You're bleeding like a mother. I mean, you are bleeding. A lot of blood's happening. So this is actually.
By the way,
go ahead.
By the way, after several years of using minoxidil, I started to understand that the skin on the surface started to be more soft.
Soft.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it. No, it is maybe it is not the best word, but my broken English is. But by the way, I didn't like it. But let's go on. Well, if I had a good and even best blood supply on top of my head, what I used minoxidil for?
You just essentially opened up it's a vasodilator, so it essentially widens the blood vessels to deliver more oxygen-rich blood to your hair follicles. So
oxygen-rich blood.
That's correct, and nutrients. Whatever oxygen-rich blood and whatever nutrients are within that blood. So when you are opening up when you're opening up the blood vessels, in many cases it'll reverse miniaturization, at least for a short period of time.
Okay. But when I don't use minoxidil, it means that I don't have this vessel opening.
It means that those blood vessels are not being dilated mechanically as they were using the medication. So yeah, they're basically closing up again to some degree.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't mean that it's abnormal. I mean, the blood vessels are acting normally. They're just being dilated, widened mechanically using medication to help to bring in more oxygen-rich blood. So if you're not taking it, not like, oh my God, my blood vessels are fucked up, I need to take this medication. These are just mechanically kind of widening those blood vessels, if that makes sense. Dilating.
Taking minoxidil is like a hyperbaric chamber for your blood vessels. Like your lung capacity right now is normal, just like everyone else.
Right.
But if you have some sort of ailment, and I'm not going to get into which ailments, but if you have some sort of ailment and you're put into a hyperbaric chamber where it's pure oxygen or much higher concentration of oxygen that you're breathing in, then that helps to accelerate healing or recovery, depending on what you're going through. It would be a physical injury or some sort of illness. It's the same thing with minoxidil. Your blood vessels are fine. There's nothing abnormal about them, assumingly. And then when you take minoxidil, it just opens them up a little bit more so that more of those nutrients that's in the blood that feeds the follicles, the oxygen that feeds the follicles, a little bit more of those ingredients gets to the follicle and helps it to kind of turn around a little bit. If it's miniaturized, it thickens up a bit. That's that's the best analogy I can come up with.
Yeah, it's a good analogy, and it essentially just keeps your hair in anagen phase longer. Say you averaged 3 to 7 years of hair growth or anagen phase, depending on the person. It'll get you closer.
Yeah, I know it. We're losing the main.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man.
I'm so sorry.
So sorry. Our apologies.
Guys, you always cutting me out. You're always cutting me out. I mean, when my time up.
Look, I can't help that Joe likes to do long explanations of things. I think they're meaningful, and we allow it on the program.
Yeah, but basically you are repeating the same thing, just with some other let's say, terminology.
Yeah,
So the main
just
thing-
Oh no, he didn't.
just like
oh
you,
no,
man.
he didn't.
For crying out loud. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. We're here to help.
Go ahead.
man.
Yes, yes. So now I'm not gonna use. I don't want to use minoxidil anymore. I just want to use finasteride because I don't want to. I don't want to put that shit on top of my head every day. Blah blah blah. Yes.
Okay.
But now I don't have this extra blood supply. Let's say extra. Extra means to me above normal. You said that I had normal, but without minoxidil I had extra, right?
No, you have
That
the
was
same
point.
blood supply. You're just your blood vessels are just being dilated. So the blood and the oxygen, the better oxygen or more oxygen you can get to your hair follicles. Same blood supply. There's no change in your blood supply.
Okay, no change in blood supply, but more oxygen.
Correct.
Let's say like, yeah. But now, what if this? But the point is that minoxidil helped me, and it helped me a lot. I mean, if I use it every day, I had not full head of hair, but no one knew that I was balding, and I had pretty good hairstyle and hairs on my head.
Okay.
Now, if putting this transplanted follicles on the top of my head, and what if they need also that this more oxygen?
They don't. They're not
But
miniaturizing.
the main
They're growing. The reason they're going to continue to grow, especially if they're taken from a more DHT resistant area, which is probably where most of your hair was moved from, is it's a theory called donor dominance. So your hair follicles are not affected in the same way, the new ones, as they are in your natively balding region. So your normal blood vessels, your normal blood supply will feed your donor hair adequately, just like they would feed it in the back of your scalp, because it's not being touched by DHT, or it's relatively DHT resistant. So you don't need to do a thing. That's why donor dominance was proven actually in the 30s, but back in the 50s. There's nothing you need to do to make those transplanted grafts grow any more robustly than they would if they were still in the back of your head.
The one thing you do need to do is follow your clinic's post-op instructions to the letter. Don't listen to anyone else, including me and Spencer, when it comes to your post-op recovery, the instructions that were given to you by your clinic. That's the most important thing you can do. On top of that, we will say, do not add anything to your regimen. Do not take anything away from your regimen, because that's asking for trouble. But aside from that, follow your clinic's instructions. Full stop. Period. Wash your hair when they say to wash your hair. You know, the weightlifting routine, don't start up until they tell you to. You know, anything like that. Follow their instructions.
Well, I do actually. I do not complicated instructions. Just washing my hair.
Good.
And
good.
And so on and so on. So my point was, this is donor dominance thing. So difference between transplanted follicles and my native follicles on top of my head is DHT resistance, right? But minoxidil don't fight DHT.
That's correct. So the reason minoxidil can work temporarily is just because it's dilating your blood vessels. So it gives you a temporary boost. For some people, it lasts for years. For some people, it's more short-lived. But in your case, that little boost gave you a significant, appreciable difference, at least visually, and you were able to maintain that for a while. But it usually is not going to last a very long time. Now, it's possible that if you decide to use it again, you would get another boost, but it's unnecessary to use in the grafted area on hairs that were moved from your donor site. It will not help them grow any faster. It will not help them grow in a more robust fashion. And as a matter of fact, again, we're both not doctors, I don't think it's a great idea. And you should wait several months before you ever consider using another topical.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it leads me to a conclusion that the difference between follicles from the donor area and from the top of my head is not only DHT resistance, but also related to so that rich oxygen blood.
No, that's an incorrect conclusion. The reason why the oxygen helps, the reason why, and then we're going to take another call. The reason why dilating those blood vessels help is kind of unknown. All we know, you can look this up, is that more oxygen-rich blood gets to those dying follicles and keeps them alive for a longer period of time. That's all we know. But
this makes sense. So if they are dying because of DHT,
yes,
instance, yeah. But if you give them more oxygen, they will last longer.
Right. It's like basically they're being put on a ventilator.
But that's implanted follicles. They will just won't die because of DHT.
That's correct.
And that's why you don't need to give them more oxygen.
Joe, will you ring the bell? I think he's got it.
I think he's got it.
All right, brother, listen.
Nope. There we go.
We're going to take a phone call. I think you're in a good position. You're 6 days out. You had some swelling. You said it's an easy recovery. I have a feeling you're going to have a really good result. I'm hoping that you are. But don't fuck with it, man. Don't put anything on your head. Continue your finasteride. We're both not doctors, but that's how I would advise my little brother.
What finasteride? What second question was about finasteride, but now you're cutting me out again.
Call back next week, dude. Come on. Real quick, what's your question? We're gonna give you 2 minutes.
Do you have a list of trusted generics or something? Because Dr. Laura Murisano, she gave me also generic, Sweden generic, and now I'm taking it.
There's no there's no list of trusted generics at this point. There are a couple of companies that are kind of opening up their doors to the American Hair Loss Association, kind of letting us take a look at where they're sourcing their stuff. So, I mean, we're going to be able to provide some more information soon. But, you know, generics are all trial and error. You know, my thing is, do you really want to take generics that are coming from, say, you know, the Far East? I don't know. I don't know if I would want to. You know, do you want to stick with a generic that maybe is, you know, made in Israel, that's maybe made in, different places in Europe?
Okay, I got it. Sorry to interrupting you. Okay, I'm gonna take generics from from Switzerland.
All right, brother.
Like that.
All right. I'm sorry to interrupt you too. We're gonna take another call. Good luck, bro. Call us anytime. All right.
Thanks, May.
Take care. Bye bye. 888-659-3727. It does take a lot of restraint, by the way.
It does. It does. I do have Dr. Bevan Borrell wants to give us a call from Australia, and I think we're going to give it a shot on my phone that is connected to my system.
We have a full board, guys. So hold on. Let's see if Joe can make this work.
Maybe I'll call him actually. Do you hear that? The ring?
I hear the ring.
Okay.
Hi, Joe.
Dr. Bevan Borrell, you're on Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth with Joe Tillman. How you doing?
Oh, good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Spencer, can you hear him?
Hey, Doc, what's happening? Can you hear me?
Am I live or?
No, you're live.
No, you're not live, man. You can say whatever you want. No one's listening.
I was eating something. That's all right. I can talk.
Can he hear me? Can you hear me, Doc?
How are you guys?
He can't hear me.
Can you hear Spencer?
I can't hear Spencer. I can just hear you.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
I
Well,
figured that would
that's
be
the part that
case.
matters.
All right. I'm just going to put the camera on you, Joe. You speak to the doc, and we're going to take your calls. Guys, call back. Don't hang
I'm
up.
sure Spencer has lots to say. But hi, Spencer, if you can hear me.
He can hear you, but yeah, it's
right.
just between me and you right now. So yeah, you
right.
were texting me while we're on the show. What's going on? What's on your mind?
So yeah, I wanted to talk to you about something, but that crossed my mind today, and I think I briefly texted you about it. But before that, I just wanted to congratulate you guys again on the Global Hair Loss Summit and the success of the meeting. I'm sure you've heard that lots of times already.
It never gets old, so thank you.
Please let the doctor know that I say thank you very much, even though this is a clusterfuck that's happening
really
right
good.
here.
So thanks for putting that together, and I look forward to the next one.
Spencer says to tell you he says thank you. And it was all Joe's doing. That all the credit goes to Joe. It was very very nice of him to say that.
Yeah, he was just in the background. So
go ahead, Doc.
There was something that that I'm finding it more and more worrying, and maybe you guys are already aware of this, but I mean, you guys have said it many times. There's a lot of these young guys who get hooked on social media and will go to clinics further afield, or to Turkey or other places, and without doing their due diligence, and then come out of the surgery thinking, oh, what the hell have I done? Or maybe it takes a few months or a few years for them to realize that. But yes, it seems to me that this over-harvesting and donor depletion is becoming the new normal, to use a COVID term. Yes, there are clinics who probably know what they're doing, and maybe some of them are less aware, and maybe they're not aware of what they're doing to the patient. But and we know that happens. But the thing that I'm finding more and more worrying is that some patients seem to find that okay, right? So I've seen a couple of guys recently, and their donor was screwed, basically, right? So I think I sent you a photo recently.
Yeah.
And the guy whose photo I sent you didn't seem to find anything wrong with his donor, right? And I don't know, Spencer hasn't seen the photo probably, but this guy's donor is gone, right? There's nothing left there, nothing left of it. But he seems okay with it, right? And he's even considering a second surgery, and there's nothing left there. I just thought, all right, okay, right. It's worrying enough that some clinics are, find it okay to do things like that. But for the patients themselves to now have no issue with it, and they not even find any reason to say anything or any reason to complain. Mm-hmm. I'm finding that a worrying trend. I'm sure maybe you guys are seeing that too. You're probably coming across that, are you?
Yeah, we are. I know Spencer is, and I certainly am. And I've recently jumped into the world of Reddit again, for the first time after a couple of years. And while I'm kind of, I don't know, encouraged by some of the information I see that these members are throwing around, there's a lot of information that really alarms me. And one of these is what you're talking about, where people don't understand when they have a result, either in the recipient or the donor or both, that I'll say experienced and ethical people are mortified to look at. And they're not only not upset about it, they're happy about it. I remember seeing this one guy asking about his final result. What do you guys think? And the before and after, there was obvious growth, and it was pretty thick. And everyone was commenting about how thick it is and how it's a big difference for him. And the only thing I couldn't see past the ant leg sticking out in the frontal hairline. and there were
and
maybe
nobody said anything about that.
Maybe one or two people had commented about how it looks unnatural. It's too stocky. There's too many multis in the hairline. But that's out of like 30 people that commented contrary to that, saying it looks fantastic. Oh, yeah, extreme minority. And we didn't see his donor area, but the photos that you sent to me, and I wish I had those ready to go. I didn't know we were going to be talking about this. But yeah, I mean, I can confirm. I looked at those images he sent me, and it's just like they picked him clean. Like they plucked him like a chicken. Yeah. And he's going back for more. Like, my question is, where are they taking the hair?
Absolutely. And, that was only one of the, as you can imagine, there's many things to talk about, with that specific case. I mean, but I thought that was the other things we've seen, or we've heard. One of the things, for example, I mean, he went to a clinic in Turkey, as you can probably imagine, and he was, the original plan was to harvest 3,000 and to cover his mid-frontal scalp. Now, he paid a certain amount, and then he came out and at the end of the at the end of the procedure, they said, oh well, we actually took 4,700, and he said, all right, cool.
Yeah, it was because it was a flat fee that he probably paid. It was probably an all-inclusive flat fee. Yeah. Yeah. But it becomes about the money, and without any importance attached to how much of the donor has been taken. Mm-hmm. And as you said, he is happy, and he's looking to go back for more, right? And there's seriously nothing to take there anymore. Yeah.
So there is such a big gap between guys like yourselves who are very well educated and very well versed and probably more knowledgeable than the majority of doctors, and some of the patients who. And I'll tell you what, right? The other worrying thing is that this guy wasn't. He's an intelligent guy, right? So he's a guy who's got a good job. He's about to get married, and he's not one of the guys who first thing he saw on Instagram booked a procedure. He tells me he looked around and so on, and this is someone who's educated, right? Mm-hmm. It's just scary, what might be happening out there to maybe some people who maybe book the first thing that they come across.
Well,
but maybe this is all news for you guys, but yeah, I just thought, that kind of shift in perception, or maybe maybe it's not a shift, maybe some patients have always kind of not been educated enough to know what is right and what is wrong.
Well, I look at it like this, and thank you for your earlier comments, but when you look at the history of this industry, the idea of there being patients that just don't know better, that's always existed, right? And it's been incumbent upon the patient to do their research and to find the right solution for them. But the information is a lot more convoluted now than ever. A lot more difficult to find the information that matters, to the point where a patient like the one you're talking about even knows that he should care about the donor region. And, to be fair about that patient you sent to me, the one reason why it doesn't bother him is because he keeps his hair at a very short length in the back. It's a very, very close crop buzz cut. But once he starts to grow that hair out, that's when that bulb will go off, and he'll be like, what the hell is going on here? I never expected this. Yeah. They never told me this would happen. And I think about this all the time. I see it all the time. And it really comes down to, doctors like yourself. Like you are a doctor that really understands the medical aspects of this. You're a dermatologist in Melbourne, Australia. You've trained with one of the best hair transplant doctors in the world under Christian Bazanga. And it's interesting to me to hear you learn about how these patients are viewing the world of hair restoration surgery. And I'm I'm encouraged by your concern for this, because I think if there's more doctors like you that are taking notice of these issues and talking about these issues, then there's hope to educate more people about this. And coming on the show and talking about your concerns as a professional in the industry, talking to your patients about this, and supporting the message of the Bald Truth and American Hair Loss Association, and of course, Global Hair Loss Summit with training online. Maybe there's some hope.
Joe, do me a favor.
I hope so. I'd be interested to hear if Spencer is seeing this sort of thing too.
I would be very interested in being able to speak with him.
Hold on 1 second.
I'd really be interested in being able to speak with him.
Yeah.
Joe, give him the VMix information, and he can call in like a normal person, not through your system. This is insane.
Well, he was trying to call the other numbers, and it wasn't working for him. So, hey, Doc, I'm going to send you we're going to hang up now, and I'm going to send you a link where you can call in, and it'll be more it'll be less one-sided. Yeah, you'll be able to talk to Spencer too. Okay, so I'll send that to you here in just a minute.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, it sounded fine to everyone else.
Guys, I'm going to take a phone call real quick, and when the doctor calls back in, we will set him up. Just tell him to tell the doctor to hang tight. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from? Jesus. Hey, caller.
I need to...
Caller, you're on the air. All right. Hey, caller, you're on the air. Who's this?
Yeah, my name's Anthony. I'm calling from Albuquerque.
Anthony, how are you, man? Welcome.
Hello, Anthony.
Pretty good, man.
Sorry about that fucking debacle that just happened. Jesus Christ.
No worries.
There was nothing wrong with that, was there, Anthony? It sounded just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Some good info there on one side, at least, yeah.
So what's going on?
Anyway, Spencer, I've kind of been in the hair loss battle since 2001. I was introduced to you when I read your book, got your book in 2001, and so kind of been going with different things.
Wow.
I kind of wanted to run something by you guys. I was on finasteride for a while. Started off with that. I was on that from about 01 to 06. Got off it, got on dutasteride. Then went back to the finasteride.
Let me stop you and ask you a couple of questions. So you've been doing this for a long time. You bought the book when it was like 3 years out.
Right.
Thank you, by the way. I hope that it helped you. And you were on finasteride. What made you switch to dutasteride? Just because you didn't think maybe you were getting the results that you expected?
You know, at the time, I think it was a mistake. I was probably like around Norwood 2, 3 at the time, just because it wasn't doing anything for me. It was maintaining what I had, but I think I got a little greedy at the time. But at the time, the finasteride was keeping what I had, you know. But, you know, I was probably being unrealistic wanting to fill in my full hairline to like when I was 19, you know.
I hear you. Hold on. Joe.
Yeah.
Is that your noise coming through, or is that someone else's noise?
It's probably Dr. Boyrule. I think he called in.
It's all right. I'm happy to wait. Guys.
Hey, Doc. How are you?
Yeah.
So, all right. So I just see you. So I just hear your audio. That's fine.
Shall I hang up and call back?
Yeah, call back in like 2 minutes.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, brother. Thanks. Okay, go ahead, caller.
Okay, and so I've kind of come full circle, and I kind of wanted to get your opinion on the topicals have never really worked for me. I mean, minoxidil just kind of irritates my scalp, so I kind of wanted you guys think about doing. I've started LLT therapy, and then from a compounding pharmacy, getting oral minoxidil along with dutasteride. I kind of wanted to get you guys' take on that.
Well, I'll give you my take on it. When you say LLT, did you buy some sort of a helmet, a cap? Did you buy something online? Did you get prescribed through a physician?
I was doing it through a hair clinic here in Albuquerque locally, and then I got one of the medical grade ones from Kier, so I've kind of been doing that for about 3-4 months or so. And then I just was contemplating starting the, like I said, the oral, the dutasteride and oral minoxidil.
All right, so right now, What is your hair like? You've been battling this for 20 years. What's going on at this moment? Do you know what Norwood classification you might be?
I would say I was about a 3. I pretty much, like I said, I got this early on when I was in my 20s, so I've done a pretty good job. I'm probably around 2 going on to 3. So it's been very gradual. So it's not bad. It's not like I'm shedding or nothing horrible, but I did notice going back on the finasteride losing ground, basically. So that's why I was thinking of changing things up a bit and doing the LLT and then, the dutasteride. And
so how long were you on finasteride before you started to see that you were losing ground?
Oh, I want to say probably like a year. I got off the dutasteride probably about a year and a half ago, maybe, and just kind of slowly losing ground. I mean, that whole time I was on dutasteride, I was pretty much holding strong. Really didn't make gains, but I was holding on to what I had.
So I don't think I heard you. Maybe you didn't tell me. Why did you get off dutasteride?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just kind of, I don't know. I was just kind of reading things online. I don't know if it was like I was kind of believing it, but like the brain fog and side effects.
And did you have any brain fog or side effects, or are you just getting older?
What's that? Yeah, exactly. That's what I don't know the answer to that, honestly. It could just be an age thing,
Did things clear up, or did you feel better once you stopped taking it?
I thought like maybe I wasn't emotionally, I was in a little bitter state, maybe, but I don't know if that was just like if that was just all in my head or not. I thought maybe I did feel a little better getting off it, but I don't know if that was just in my head.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think you can ask yourself now: was it worth dropping? Only you can answer that. But my other question is how long ago did you start on this mix of treatments? Because you said you're taking oral minoxidil now, right?
Yeah, just
okay.
Starting actually. Yeah, so I can't really
just starting.
You say yeah. It's a
and then
pharmacy.
And you're starting low level light therapy.
Yes.
Laser, essentially. And did you say you're back on dutasteride or finasteride?
So back on.
Or just
so
those first 2 items?
From compounding. Yeah, it's a compounding pharmacy, so it's dutasteride, the 0.5, and minoxidil in 1 capsule, basically.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And how long? And how long ago did you start that? The double-barreled pill and then the laser, because you started all that at the same time, right?
No, so the laser, I've been doing that about 5 months, I'd say, since July. Well, I guess longer now, since July, and just started the oral minoxidil and dutasteride. So I can't really make a judgment on that because literally it's just been like a week since I've been on that.
Okay. Well, my general feeling and approach to this, we were talking about this with Morty before. I don't know if you heard that. But my position and Spencer's position has always been, don't throw everything at it at once. Because if you have some sort of positive or negative response, you have no idea what's responsible for it. Especially now, because you got that double-barreled pill that's got both minoxidil and dutasteride in it. You have no idea if one or both is going to work, or if one or both is going to you might go into a telogen effluvium just because you're starting into it, but you're also doing the laser therapy, which you only started 5 months ago. And my feeling on this is that if you're going to introduce or start a new treatment, give it 6 months bare minimum, preferably 1 year, to see how it's working out for you. Because with this pill that you're starting, what if you do start a telogen effluvium? Is it because the laser? Is it because of the double-barreled action of both medications at once? Is it just because of the dutasteride? Is it just because of the oral minoxidil? You won't know. So that means you don't know which one to stop, and you're stuck taking all of them,
right?
Or dumping all of them.
I'm gonna interject here too. I think given how you describe things, given the fact that you decided to get off of dutasteride, Now you're on a generic finasteride mixed with a generic oral minoxidil, and you're losing ground. There's a very good chance that it's probably not just because you got off of dutasteride. And again, this is just based on years of experience. When you start to take oral minoxidil in general, there's a pretty significant chance, topical or oral, that you're going to go through a shed, that you're going to lose some ground. So you did two things that could make you kind of go backwards. One is you stopped taking medication that was working for you, A. But you're also taking a medication that's really, could really jumpstart a telogen. You're really kind of like converting, or basically the drug is trying to get your hair into an anagen phase more rapidly, so you go through a telogen phase. And that happens a lot when people start taking oral minoxidil. And it could also happen just by switching from one 5-alpha reductase inhibitor to another. So you were taking a dual 5-alpha reductase inhibitor that was inhibiting type 1 and type 2 successfully, and then you remove that from the equation and you started something else. So I think that if you, either you have to make a choice, like Joe said, you have to stick to one medication and see how it works for you at this point. You can definitely recoup. The finasteride and the minoxidil may be a wonder drug for you. It may actually have already started to work, and the reason that's a possibility is because you're going through a shed. You've lost some ground. Or getting off to dutasteride fucked you up. These are two things that, unfortunately, we can't answer. But those are two possible reasons why you're losing ground. So you have to make a decision on what to stick with.
Right. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. That makes sense. In general, you guys have probably talked about it before. Do you think LLT is worth it?
Listen, if you already got the hat, I don't think it's going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
But anything that you use that could potentially help with hair growth could also make you go through a shed and also make you lose some ground. So you either got to choose to stick with it or not. If you're going to use that fucking hat, then keep it on your head for another year or so. Stick with the medication you're on, or make a choice. Whatever choice you want to make, talk to your doctor. If you want to get back on dutasteride, that's another choice. But once you make that decision, stick with it, whatever the decision is, for at least 12 months.
Okay, guys. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks. Keep up the good work.
All right, brother. I appreciate you,
Thanks,
and I
man.
appreciate you being a longtime fan. Thanks a lot. Good luck.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See you, buddy.
We have more calls, but if Evan wants to call in, he can call in now. We can talk for a bit.
Okay, I just sent the message for him. I've never heard of a pill that's got both dutasteride and minoxidil in it. I think
there are doctors who
I've heard of
compounding all kinds of shit now.
Yeah, I think I've heard of the finasteride minox combo, but only topically. Actually, I know I have, but yeah, in oral form, that's a first. I don't recall ever hearing about that.
I've heard of it. Actually, I heard of it many, many years ago, and I'm not even going to mention his name because I don't want to give this guy any platform. But he was offering that with progesterone injections into people's scalps. But he was offering the minoxidil at a much higher dosage. So, I mean, people are compounding minoxidil, oral and topical, forever. When I first started using minoxidil, topically, it was being compounded in a compounding pharmacy. And then I was actually offered oral minoxidil at one point. But they were using, I think 10 milligrams at the time.
I remember that being the dosage that was. Yeah, actually, I remember the guy I mentioned on the show, the guy that flew from New Zealand to meet me to show me his medical results was taking some sort of witch's brew and the 10 milligram Lonitin tablets, oral minoxidil that they had prescribed for him.
The only reason I chose not to at the time was because I had access to finasteride, so I gave it a shot. And I was excited about that. But it's very possible I would have gotten on the 10 milligram dose of oral minoxidil if that was my only choice.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I didn't make that decision.
So I see that he's got the message. There he goes. I think I hear
Hey,
him.
Doc.
Hey guys, how are you?
Okay, man. So listen, you had a really nice conversation with Joe. I went to take a piss during the conversation because I wasn't included.
Yeah.
So tell me, I kind of heard that you had some questions for me. Wanted to see what my, experiences have been about these young guys who are just going in. And I don't know if you saw my Instagram on it. The reality is there is a new normal that's being created that is being accepted by the internet world and by these young guys. And for whatever reason, physicians and the industry, no one wants to get together and tell these guys, look, this is a bad idea. And these are the real reasons it's a bad idea. It's not a bad idea just because it's being done in some sort of black market, which the entire field is essentially turned into a black market. It's a bad idea for these reasons. And I've never seen a society or anyone really provide the information in the places where people get their content to fully inform patients. And I think that's why you guys are so frustrated at what's happening.
Yeah. No, you're 100% correct, Spencer. But what I was probably maybe not completely aware of is yes, we know this is happening, and unfortunately, it seems to be no one at the moment seems to be able to stop it. But what I probably wasn't completely aware of is that even after coming out of the surgery, right, and their donor, the donor's screwed essentially, or Joe was mentioning a result that was maybe questionable. These guys are happy with it, and the guy that I saw, honestly, it was one of the worst depleted donors I've ever seen, but he wants to go back for more, right? So we know that many, doctors and surgeons probably aren't doing as much as they can, but it seems that a lot of patients seem to find this acceptable.
And they do. And the reason they find it acceptable is because there was this new normal that was created through social media that was, I believe, fostered and cultivated originally from the old guard, that this is a simple outpatient procedure, that, there really is no potential for damage, that it is, there's no nuance or finesse. And as things developed, because it was marketed in this sense, what people were seeing online, they thought, well, this is what a hair transplant is. I have to make a certain sacrifice. If I want hair on the top of my head, I'm going to have a thinner, sparser look on the back. And I'm willing to have that because I want the hair to frame my face. And, as this information, it's kind of like a telephone game. As the information gets out there through social media, it becomes more muted and more muted, and people really don't understand what they're looking at or what is supposed to be normal. I remember this one young person, this one girl, she was in her 20s at the time, and she had told me that her friend had a hair transplant in Turkey and that it looks great. And I looked at a picture of this guy, and from a mile away, from his Instagram page, I'm like, that is one of the worst hair transplants I've seen in my entire career. I mean, they were
happy with it.
Because they had hair in their head. So it's basically like these old-timey guys that used to wear the bad wigs, and they were like walking around, and everyone, they knew they were always wearing a wig, but he felt better because he had hair on his head. Mm-hmm. So what these kids don't know is, okay, the short-term results suck. They are not natural. This is not the way a hair transplant is supposed to look. But they're not really informed or prepared or understand that what's going to happen to them in the long term. The fact that so much hair was moved that will not be resistant to DHT or may have minimal resistance for a short period of time, but eventually that hair is going to miniaturize just like the hair on the top of their heads. And once that starts to occur, they're going to have a scalp of scar tissue. And in the back of their minds, they're like, well, I'm just going to get SMP then. So there's always this solution in their minds based on misinformation that's being perpetuated on the internet. It's a very tough, young patients today, or any patient today, is in a very tough position physicians are like ethical physicians are in a really tough position, and I've watched some skilled and ethical physicians really start to make concessions based on the market and based on what the market will bear, and it's fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, you can quite have sort of because you see that across the board that people cannot see the long term and will go in for maybe something that looks good for a few years. But this is bad even in the short term, right?
Yeah.
So some people come out with a messed up donor, and that's in the short term, and they're okay with it. But
well, I haven't seen this guy's particular images, but so right now, if someone who didn't understand hair transplant surgery were take a look at him, what would he look like? Like he had a fade in the back, or does it look like? I mean, does it look quasi-normal to the naked eye?
It would look like he's got maybe alopecia areata, the back end. It's so thin, and the guy's about to get married, right? You would have thought he'd be panicking, right? So he's getting married this year, and you'd have thought he'd be thinking, "Oh shit, what is my hair going to look like this on the day of the wedding?" But he's completely fine.
Well, I mean, this is one instance. I mean, I'm sure there's other people who are completely fine, but normally, at least in my experience, when someone has that much of a depleted donor, they're freaking the fuck out. They're like, I made a mistake. So I don't think that's the norm or the new normal. I think there is a new normal where a bad hair transplant, a unnatural hair transplant, is okay. It's acceptable in these kids' eyes. Or these really low, rounded, hairlines, these feminine hairlines, where they're packing in 3,000 or 4,000 grafts in a single session, and people aren't really worried about, what's going to happen to them in 5 years or 10 years. I had a guy who contacted me through Instagram yesterday, who thanked me for the work that I'm doing. Totally understand. Yeah, you there?
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, sorry, I can hear you now.
Okay. So I had a guy that contacted me.
I lost you for a few seconds.
I had a guy that contacted me through Instagram yesterday. A young guy thanked me for what I'm doing. Said that he's pushing the pause button because he found. All right, Joe, we'll take a look at that in a second. Pushing the pause button because he found my content on Instagram, and I guess that's why I have to really start to do this more. But he said something that was, really rang true to the reality of what's happening. He said, what you're saying is correct, but, we want to be happy in our younger years. And I totally understand that. That's why I almost had a wig sewn into my head at the age of 22. Because I wanted to be happy in my younger years. But somehow I had the wherewithal to step back and say, something is fucked up here. A lot of these kids don't have that. And they have no idea what, 2 years goes by very quickly. 3 years goes by very quickly. What these guys are going to be dealing with just in a short period of time, it could really destroy their lives. Now, let's take a look at the picture. Actually, Joe's putting it up on the screen. Let me look at this guy's donor. Holy mother of God.
The picture doesn't probably even do it justice because, I took it with my iPhone, so maybe the lighting wasn't very good, but yeah.
It gets the message across for sure. And what's interesting is you can see, just so you know, it looks like Doc, we're looking at the right side of the scalp, where we can see the ear and the occipital region, and it looks like there's a demarcation between the temple region where they didn't take any grafts, and then the rest of the donor.
The
that's
supra-auricular and
yeah, absolutely, and so. Yeah, this is what we're seeing a lot of, and it's really par for the course. And like I said, and Spencer, you may agree, like it's maybe the guy doesn't understand how bad it is because it is so short. But then, if he were to ever give it a shot to grow it out longer, even a couple of inches, it would look.
But even taking a look at the hair itself, even taking a look at it at that length, forget about the completely decimated donor. It's already significantly thin. So the donor that was moved, there's a good chance that less than half of it's going to survive for more than a couple of years, even if he's on medication.
How long ago did he have surgery, Doc?
He's 33. He's not even on anything. He's not on finasteride or anything else.
Already has the beginnings of retrograde alopecia. He already has extreme diffuse, in my view, hair loss in his donor. I don't know if I'm, you saw him, so you can tell me better. You're the doctor. But
it is very diffuse, and I was so sort of caught up with this that I'm not even mentioning. The main problem he came was this. I don't know if you guys have come across this condition called alopecic and aseptic nodules of the scalp, where in the recipient he was getting big boils, almost like big acne boils.
Sure,
that
absolutely.
may compromise the growth of his of the hair in the recipient area. So I was so sort of taken aback by his donor that I haven't even mentioned the issue he came to see me about.
Well, how long ago did he have the surgery?
Last September.
That long ago? Okay. Yeah. So it's not fresh. It's was that October, November, December? So it's 4 or 5 months. Okay, 5 months.
Don't make Joe do math, yeah.
Don't make me do math. Yeah.
This is. I would say that this is an example, and I think I'm going to maybe make a clip of this. Well, I don't know if we can use this picture, but you let me know. But I mean, this is an example. Well, I mean, he's showing it on the air, so I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if you have permission to show it, Joe.
Well, the doc sent it to me. I assume so. No,
Okay.
it's fine to use this photo.
Okay.
Is that right, Doc?
Can you please crop it? Sort of you can't see the
You can't see
front
his
part
face.
of the face, but
No.
yeah.
No,
You can't see any of the face.
You can't see any
No,
of the
it's
face.
safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. This guy, unfortunately, first of all, he was never a candidate for surgery, as I'm sure you know. He should have been put on medication for at least a year to see if, in fact, he would respond.
Agreed. Yeah.
And it's not shocking, especially since you said he went overseas. But I mean, this is an example of the psychopathy that is really a huge part of this industry.
Yeah, and patients are okay with it, which is it. I mean, ultimately it's not their fault, but because some of them will obviously trust the clinic that they go to, and I don't know if you caught that part of my conversation with Joe, but the guy he's a clever guy. He's got a very good job. You would have thought he would have made a wiser decision, but anyway, I guess
having a good job, being a professional, sadly, it doesn't necessarily make you clever. It doesn't necessarily make you, you can
absolutely.
You could be good at what you do.
Yeah.
You could have been a great student. No offense, take this in the spirit that's meant, Doc, but I've met a lot of doctors in my day who are not the sharpest tools in the shed. So everyone has their own.
And I think
Go ahead.
I think you gave the example of a lawyer who had a terrible experience, who left his job as a lawyer.
That's correct. You remember that? That's interesting. Yeah. So now this guy, he called the program, and he had to invest in a truck and basically buy a route to deliver potato chips in different bodegas in New York. So he was able to work on his own and just wear a hat and deliver potato chips instead of, being an attorney. So, I mean, a lot of really smart people make really dumb choices. And because we are, reared, society, puts physicians on pedestals, or, people see stuff, the stuff that's happening on social media. They don't really know that this isn't what's supposed to happen. And they're like, you know what? I see a little bit more hair in the front, and I feel good about that. I don't really see the back of my head in the mirror. It's not a big deal.
Cares?
It's a big deal because everyone else is looking at the back of his head saying, what the fuck happened to this dude?
Yeah.
So I wish there was a way to just wave a magic wand and change this. But you're in this field now, Doc. And you're going to be dealing with more and more and more of this stuff. And while the luminaries and while the people are having their meetings and conferences and all the happy horse shit and patting themselves on the back, and having. I just saw a live ISHS conference panel discussion on this very thing from doctors in Australia, and I'm watching this and I'm thinking, this is a fucking joke. All they're talking about is, have you seen unhappy patients? Have you seen what do you tell these unhappy patients? And it's just the same happy horse shit back and forth, and no one goes online, no one does anything, no one wants to work collectively to potentially help to educate these potential patients in a way that's going to be meaningful and resonate. It's left up to me and Joe.
Just us.
It's just you. Yeah, you have to do the work of Jesus in a way. Jesus Christ, almost. one guy against everybody else.
Well, it's like even in, you're part of these chat groups. When you see the questions in these chat groups from these are practicing physicians asking about how to sterilize their tools. I can't even believe it.
I saw that and I was just like, what in the absolute F?
How do you sterilize an instrument?
How do you sterilize an instrument? Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty shocking stuff.
This is what we're dealing with, Doc. So welcome to the industry. You're one of the good guys, but it's only going to get. Go ahead.
One of the things, maybe not in the hair transplant world that scares doctors, it's unfortunate that you have to think about it in those terms, is, they're scared of litigation or patients coming after them if they have a bad result. But if all these patients are happy and they think, oh, well, I've got a few hairs on my head, that's that's good, I'm happy with it, then these doctors are going to rest on their laurels.
Correct. Yeah. Well, until there's one guy that figures it out and destroys them online. All you need is one really motivated, unhappy person on your ass, and it's lights out.
Smart. They have to be smart too.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some that do things completely the wrong way and they fail miserably. But yeah, smart and motivated, might as well close your doors. Because they won't give up.
So that's why I think it's so important. Full disclosure is the key. You let people know exactly what they're getting involved in. These issues can happen. Or this is why I'm choosing not to perform surgery on you. Or, if someone comes to you and has bad surgery from a colleague, you do not bash the colleague. I mean, the shit that I see online, and one of the worst things is when someone really criticizes a colleague in a way that turns off the patient, because it puts the patient on their heels as well. And all of a sudden you see a complaint online about the doctor who was, slagging off his colleague when the patient didn't think his result was even that bad. So it's a real game of finesse and psychology and I think the best way to protect yourself is just to tell the truth. Mm-hmm. Mm. And a lot of doctors are afraid to do that because they're afraid they're going to scare patients off. Mm. So that's all I got to say about that, Doc.
Thanks. Thank you, guys.
All right, brother.
I won't take up too much of your time. Thanks again.
Well, I appreciate the call. And next time,
it was great hearing from you.
Next time you want to call in, have Joe send you this line so you can get in, and we can all speak. All right.
So you don't get. So you're not left out.
Right.
Our plan failed, Doc. He caught on to it. No, thanks for calling in, though. It's always great hearing from you.
Listen, Joe Tillman's been trying to take over this show for a long time, and I'm not going to let it happen. All right, Doc. All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys.
Take care.
Keep up the good work.
Take care.
Bye.
We will try. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We'll take another phone call or two since we started late. If that's okay with Joe, I don't know. It's up to him.
I am completely on board with that. Okay. Let's do it.
You're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, guys.
What's up? Where are you calling from? What's your name?
This is Sasha from New Jersey.
Sasha, welcome.
Sasha.
So,
what's up, buddy?
So, This is my first time calling. I've been aware of Spencer's show since maybe 2009.
Wow.
And I kind of, I've kind of had, I'm 45, and I've kind of had a, I guess, anxiety, concern about hair loss since I was a kid. It's almost like I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop my whole life, because on my father's side, pretty much all the men have been Norwood 5s, by their 40s. And growing up, I basically said, oh, well, it's going to happen sooner or later. So around the time I started to get concerned about it in my 20s, I think I had, you went onto the early internet, and I remember stumbling upon some reference to Spencer's show. And I thought, maybe this is funny or not, but I remember taking a look at Spencer and thinking, like, this can't be real. This guy has a Bald Truth program. He has a full head of hair. So, but
it's kind of like, if you're gonna go and train your body, you probably don't want to go with the obese trainer. You know what I mean?
The fat guy.
As Spencer would say, you look at the world with a jaundiced eye, right? So, and my bullshit meter went off, and I thought, like, how could this guy be doing a Bald Truth show? And he's got a full head of hair. And I didn't, to be honest, I didn't really listen to the show. I listened to maybe 5 minutes of it. Don't remember what I listened to. And just sort of went off.
Back into your own misery.
Yeah. So basically, I rediscovered your show through YouTube during the pandemic. And I watched a backlog of shows going back maybe 4 or 5 years, and other stuff that I could find that either you or other people had posted. I guess my bullshit meter kind of went down when I saw that you brought Joe Tillman on board. And I really gave
and there's the validation. Okay.
just to listen. I started listening, and I thought, okay, well, I think I'd make this the first. I want to be a repeat caller, but I figured I'd put this out there first. I was super skeptical. Like, how does this?
Yeah, you're skeptical of the guy with the full head of hair, and then the guy with the huge forehead comes on. You're like, okay, now there's some legitimacy here. He's with a super high hairline and the recessed temples. Okay, now we can talk. I get it.
Yeah. Learning about Joe's background, I was like, oh, okay, this guy's the real deal. Maybe Spencer's legit for real. Let's see what this is all about. Because I mean, what
thank God for small fucking miracles. I guess you have to really fuck up your life and make mistakes first to be taken seriously, like Joe did.
I guess so.
Well, I kind of, I think Spencer has said, oh, what's their angle? What's their angle, right? And I kind of looked at Spencer like, what's his angle? How does this guy make a living doing this? And then I heard him tell his story about, owning his own rights and syndication and all that through radio and all that story. Like, okay, so it's like, and he's a legit patient advocate. So, like I gave you a fair shot the second time around watching all these backlog of videos, and also,
thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate it.
But what really kind of resonates with, I guess, you, and especially with Spencer's, just the lifelong, you'll see on forums, you'll see these young guys talk about, as long as I have hair in my 20s, I won't care so much when I'm 30, 35, when I'm over 40, and it's funny, like, you never really stop caring, for the majority.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I blinked my eyes. I remember being 19 years old in college, and suddenly my left temple receded. And I guess now they call it maturing hairline.
Yeah.
If that's even a thing.
Mm-hmm. It is a thing.
So my left temple matured, so to speak. And
it's a thing. It means you're balding. And no one wants to tell you.
It freaked me out. But my right temple was still sort of a quasi juvenile hairline. But the whole thing freaked me out, and I don't know what it was. This is maybe 1997, 1998, and I heard about Propecia. I don't know where I heard about it. It definitely wasn't on the internet, because the internet was still not really much of a thing. But I actually freaked out so much about it that I tried to read what I could about it. I forgot what I read about it, where I read. It was probably in a magazine or something. And I was, as you know, sometimes in states, you know, you can still be go to your pediatrician even when you're in college.
By the way, I wrote the first book on it. But whatever.
So I actually scheduled. I actually scheduled an appointment with my pediatrician because I didn't have my own doctor yet. I was still in college, and I remember being so embarrassed to talk about hair loss in my doctor that I wouldn't even tell the receptionist like what I wanted to talk to him about.
Wait a second.
You know,
so you're telling me that you were 19 years old and you still were going to a pediatrician?
Yeah, it's not exactly unusual to not have a primary care doctor when you're still a college student. At least back then.
No, it's not unusual. It's just you probably wouldn't, if you wanted to see a doctor, you probably wouldn't go back to your pediatrician. But I think that's interesting. You had a good relationship.
Yeah.
With him.
I mean, I didn't know any better. I guess I just said, you know, who's my doctor? Let me talk to my doctor.
Right.
You know, and funny enough that when I talked to my doctor about it, at that point he already said he had. He said, "Oh, I don't see any visible hair loss." You know, of course, and I told him about the hairline, and he actually said, "You know, I'll prescribe it for you." You know, because I told him what I knew about it.
Sure.
And he surprised him. He said he did have other guys in there. He had a couple other patients who weren't that much older than me who had.
Yeah. Well, I think the good news is that you got a prescription and a lollipop when you left.
Yeah.
Exactly. A balloon. A balloon animal.
So I went on Propecia, and I went on it when I was 19 years old, maybe 20, on the verge of 19, 20. It's all fuzzy now, but I went on it, and I was on it for about 6 or 8 months, and then I remember thinking during the time, like, I'm gonna have to be on this for the rest of my life. You know, what do we really know about this thing? And you know, I didn't really know. Like, am I overreacting? Should I wait and see? And I kind of panicked and I stopped taking it.
Okay.
And I said, let me see what happens. And
you
nothing
did.
much really happened. Yeah, I stopped I stopped taking it, and nothing much really happened. And I kind of went about my life. And always in the back of my mind, sort of thinking about my hair. So I kind of had this like on again, off again obsession with my hair throughout my 20s. And then I started to notice that the hairline was receding by the time I was like 29, 30. And I went back and I got back on it again.
Okay.
I went on it for like three or 4 years. And my hair looked great. I was styling my hair in a way to sort of hide that more recessed temple. And then at the 4-year mark, I kind of noticed, I started noticing like the libido side effects. And I dropped it. I started reading the online forums, freaked myself out, and
fucking forums, man.
Yeah.
It's the forums, man, every time.
This is, I don't know, I guess this is about 2009, you know, and it was just the beginnings of people starting to sound the alarm on post-finasteride, right, syndrome. And I freaked out. I thought, oh, what am I doing to myself? So I got off it, and I got the libido back, you know, and I didn't have like a massive shed and lose all my hair.
Good.
Like I thought it was going to be the end of the world, and I braced myself, and it didn't happen. And I thought, well, now I'm wondering, like, is this it? Did I hit my final pattern? What's going on? And I kind of was anxious about it for the next however many years. And probably about 4 years later, I started to realize, like, yeah, the texture of my hair, I started to need to, you know, blow dry my hair more to, like, get more volume. I was losing volume, you know, in, like, the hair, and then my hair wouldn't hold the hairstyle as well. And so, like, and I noticed, I think I was fooling myself thinking everything's fine, but it wasn't. So I finally got back on Propecia again about 3.5, 4 years ago. But just in general, like the I'm not sure if you've had callers on, or I don't know if the shows I've seen have had callers where they've been on and off propecia or
I have,
financial.
sure.
You know,
Yep.
Maybe
And,
not as
I
many times.
haven't heard any.
Maybe
calls.
not as
I
many
haven't heard
times
any
as
calls
you.
about it.
But yeah, I have.
But I guess And what's funny is the on again, off again, and it's so difficult to predict. Like it's some guys, you know, they get the short end of the stick and they start losing hair when they're in college or a teenager, and it all goes.
Yeah.
Other guys are fine up until 40, and then boom, it starts to go. It's like it's so unpredictable.
Dude, no one is safe. It's a fucking ticking time bomb. When I hear people, they're like, "Oh, I'm 35 years old, and I have, my doctor says I'm gonna keep all my hair." I don't want to tell them, no, I want him to live his little fantasy, you know. But people, like if I'm at a bar or hanging out with people, or anytime someone finds out what I do, they want to talk about hair. And then it's always like, oh, it's on your mother's side, right? Every fucking bullshit myth in the book comes out. And all these guys who are close to 40 who have, I could see they're losing their hair already, but who think they've kept most of their hair, they think they're safe. And usually these guys, I'm not saying for every guy, but if it starts to hit you about 35 or 40, I've seen guys who've just like gone downhill within 2 years, like quickly. They refuse to get on medication. They're like, well, I'll just wait until I need a hair transplant. And then they're totally fucked. So I think your, on again and off again, your skepticism, even with me at the beginning, your concerns about, being on finasteride and your adverse side effects didn't really seem to harm you that much getting back on and off. And you're one of the lucky ones. So
yeah.
And you're open-minded.
Definitely. Yeah, and listening to all those backlogs of shows, I heard you say those exact things, saying, you've seen, guys that everything was fine up until they hit a certain age, and then it goes, and you can't predict it, right?
No, you can't.
And so now I'm on it, and I also tried to look at like family history, like. On my mom's side, like not a single man going back generations, not a single man lost their hair. They all have juvenile hair.
There's only one guy, and he was exiled from the family. and that's the gene that you got. Look, you really don't know, and everyone's what's your lineage, and yeah, I mean there's some, it's genetic, so for sure there is a stronger chance if you have a strong family history of hair loss on both sides that you're going to suffer from it as well. But there are those anomalies where they can't find it anywhere, and they start to lose their hair.
I mean, it's like on my dad's side, I went back like 4 generations, and almost all the men are bald. And my father and his brothers, they all lost their hair.
So you have like a Norwood family tree that you set up or something?
Oh, hell yeah. I did the research on that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like, and one doctor I talked to about it, because I got on after about a year and a half, almost 2 year mark, being on finasteride propecia recently. I found a doctor that would prescribe me oral minoxidil. This is before, I guess, oral minoxidil was really popularized in the last year or so. But like, he took a look at me, and I talked to him about my history, and he actually said something funny. He's like, maybe some of the genetics on your mother's side muted the male pattern baldness on your father's side.
Right.
And of course he said, I don't see you going bald, as long as you're on treatment, And I was like, oh,
what side of the family?
You had to think.
What side of the family do you resemble most physically? Your mother's side or your father's side?
I don't think I look like anybody on my father's side, and my mother thinks I take after her side. But there are relatives on each side that claim you, right? So,
yeah.
The real nervous thing is that I'm in my 40s now, and that's when all my uncles and my father started losing a lot of their hair. So, I thought I'd better be on treatment in my 40s just in case. So.
Right, but did you? Well, okay. Did you say that your uncles were all bald by? They're like Norwood 5s by the time they're in their 40s, or it started in their 40s? I thought you said the former first. So it started in their 40s?
From the pictures that I could see, you know, they all had like recessed hairlines in their 30s, and they were pretty much Norwood 4-ish by like 45. They were all doing comb over.
Okay.
Just to hide.
Okay.
You know. They're all doing.
And how old are you now? 40 what?
I'm 40. I'm 45.
Okay. And you just said that your mother thinks, or like, I mean, who cares what your mom thinks? What do you think? Do you think that you physically resemble your mom's side of the family or your dad's side of the family? Facially?
I think
facial
I'm
structure.
I don't think
like,
I look.
Okay, so you consider yourself an even mix. I asked that because,
yeah,
like I've had this idea for a long time, and I'm usually proven right when I get into this with some patients. Like I'm in my family, I resemble my father's side of the family more so than my mother's side, and my father was bald, his brother was bald, their father was balding but had more hair but still balding. On my mother's side of the family, no one's bald. Thin, recessed, but no one went bald, like actually bald. My younger brother, he resembles my mother's side of the family, and he's the same way. He has a very high hairline. He's probably a Norwood 3A by now, and he's 46. Yeah, so he's your age.
Here's the bottom line. Everybody, almost everybody, will have some degree of hair loss. Period. I'm like the Grim fucking Reaper, dude. Eventually, people are going to come and call me, just like you did. And you know, I think, and I'm kind of joking, but I'm not. I think the fact that you've been on and off of treatment, you're back on now, probably at the right time of your life. You know, and you're open-minded, you're probably going to fare pretty well. And you may be a guy who reaches my ripe old age and is able to maintain a decent-looking head of hair.
Let's hope so. But yeah, I mean, you know, I'm also glad I rediscovered your show, you know, and sort of arming myself with the information in the event I may go down the road with a transplant in the future, you know. But so you know,
and the older you are, the better you are.
Grateful.
The older you are, the better chance you're going to have of having a successful, long-lasting hair transplant. You're closer to death, so you don't have to worry about the hair lasting for 50 years. And that I joke about that, but that's just the truth. You know.
That's Mr. Sunshine for you.
Yeah, but a lot of guys, you know, if you decide, you know, I'm going to have a hair transplant at 48 years old, you have a much greater chance of keeping all of that hair that was moved until you're 70 than some guy who does it at 24.
Yeah.
So the longer you hold off, the better.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can hold it off till I'm 50. You know, but you know, life goes by quick, but still, you know. Life can be long if you make the wrong decisions, right? So I want to make sure that I'm up to speed with you know, everything. And you know, thank you guys for putting all this information out there.
You got it, brother. Thanks.
Absolutely.
And you know,
thanks for the call.
So yeah, this will be the first of many to come.
All right. Well, you're welcome.
Again.
As long as you don't insult me anymore, you're more than welcome to call in.
That's why I'll make it the first call or something. Then I'll
All
be
right,
nice
brother. Good luck. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Do you want to take the last call of the night, Joe, or do you want to go?
There's another call on hold?
No, I'm conjuring up one, hoping that someone calls in.
If there's another caller, we'll take it. If there's
Okay.
not, then we're done.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Caller, I can hear you.
If you're not, then we're done. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Dude, you got to turn
you're
off
listening
your
to us on speaker.
You got to turn off your speaker. We can hear you. We're going to hang up in a second if you don't say hello.
Hello?
Yeah, hello. Turn off your computer, dude.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
No, not really.
Yes.
Hey, this is Carlos.
What's up, Carlos?
Hello, Carlos.
Yeah, I can hear you.
That's great. I'm glad you could hear us.
I had you guys on the TV.
So what's up, man?
And, I called a few weeks ago, so I'm a returning caller.
Well, welcome back.
Okay. See if I can. Guess not. No, I'm just. I've been hearing you guys for a while now. I've been dealing with this hair loss issue conundrum, and I don't know. It just. I don't know what you guys think, man, but I don't know. It just kind of blows my mind how like at this stage there's not another hair loss treatment. You know, I don't know. I think I told you guys that I got on finasteride. I'm a Mexican prescription, and I've had really, really bad side effects. And I don't know. Like I'm still going on with what I mean. My hair is decent right now. I'm 32 years old, and I don't know. But I think the most straining part about this is how it's like you just see it, especially for. I'm pretty sure it's really bad for guys that lose it really fast, but like most guys, like lose it relatively slow. Just seeing it slowly, more scalp visible every.
It's fucking Chinese water torture. Can I say that still? Is it still Chinese water torture, or is it Asian water torture? I can't say that.
Definitely not Oriental water torture.
I don't know. It's something that it just blows my mind how as humans we pride ourselves in having so much advancements in science, and we've been to the moon and whatnot, and we still can't. We still can't give a grasp on this issue. And it seems something so simple in a way, but it's just.
Well, people like me and Elon Musk have been able to handle it, but for the average person, I'd say, yeah, it's still tough.
Yeah, it just for the average, it just blows my mind how it's something that we deal with, and most guys, mostly, are going to deal. At least if you're a guy, it's going to come at you at some point, and how we don't how it's just I don't know how we just manage to accept it. And there's just deal with it, and I don't know. I realize that
if you're scrolling down your Instagram feed, you're realizing that most guys, especially in your generation, they're really not accepting it, and sadly, they're turning to a lot of unethical service providers, a lot of bullshit that's continuing to be put online. I'm now seeing celebrities endorsing products and services. I can't even fucking believe it. I can't even fucking believe what I'm seeing now. It's worse than ever. But here's the positive part. There's more awareness. There's more acceptance for men wearing hair systems now than ever before. So I think that's I think that's super positive because, in my view, before you get your head cut open, try a hair system, a partial hair system. I've been talking about this for years. Years ago, I went to this guy, from Cool Piece, got this little, now they're making these small systems. But I got this thing, I cut it up, put it on my bald spot, couldn't even tell. Now I choose to paint it. Because I don't want to you got to trim the hair. It's a whole pain in the ass, but it's an option that most guys, especially back in the day, didn't want to try. Now people are more willing to give it a shot, and I think in general, younger women, because they're seeing all this, they may not be seeing it in their feed, but you can kind of slide that shit into their feed so they know it's happening. But they're more accepting of a guy trying to do something about his appearance. And even if it's artificial, that kind of artificial thing is not that frowned upon it as much as it was when we were young or when me and Joe were young. I'm still young, but when Joe was young, you know what I mean?
No, it's just, I don't know. I do, for sure, I think it's a lot less invasive than surgery, but I just think the whole, obviously I've never had a system, but I don't know. I feel like the whole mess of having to deal with it, and what is it called, maintenance and whatnot. I know. It's an option for sure. It's better than
everything is going to be made. If you want to maintain anything in your life, that takes maintenance. If you want to maintain your hair, you have to be, if you want to use a medical route, that takes maintenance.
Yeah.
If you go down the surgical route, that's a lot of maintenance. That is recovery, hopefully hair growth, and then waiting for the other shoe to drop when you need another surgery. So it's a constant maintenance game. I don't know if gluing hair on your head is going to be as difficult emotionally. Maybe it would be. I don't know. But as far as having multiple surgeries and as far as, just, I think medication is important, whether especially if you're going to use a piece as well, because you want to be able to keep as much of your hair as possible so it integrates well. But if you want to keep your hair as maintenance, the only way this is maintenance free is shaving your head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've thought about that quite a bit. I mean, I do think it's the most effective way to just deal with it. It's just I don't think it's for everybody, you know. There is guys who just just own it and I mean good for them, you know.
Did you see what I looked like when Joe shaved my head? It's unbelievable what he did to me. That picture is ridiculous. I have my head is like 10 feet tall.
7.
No, yeah, and I don't think I'm like. I mean, obviously, I think you can get used to it no matter how you look after a while. But yeah, it's not a look that most of us guys would be comfortable with. You know, maybe it's like there's guys that maybe they are, and great for them. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the hair system goes, I just think it's like. I think the whole process of hair loss, you know, fixing it, like putting something on it, putting a system over your scalp. You know, it's going to give you that cosmetic look. I think it even looks better than a transplant sometimes. It's just the fact that, you know, you're covering up your hair. You know, it's gone, but you're patching it up.
It's
and,
it's a mental fucking, you know, it's a mind fuck, man. But
I think the mental side of you're going outside, you're talking to people, and you know you're wearing this. I mean, I've never worn it, but I've thought about it, and I'm like, I know I'm.
I think
and I think it's just going to be in my head the whole time. You know?
It can be in your head, but if you think about it, and this is how I tell young people to think about it. Most women that you meet walk out in the street and they're in a fucking disguise. That's not how they look. That's not who they are. They are wearing a mask of fucking makeup.
Yeah.
Their hair is colored. Probably half of it's fake. They have fake nails on. They could be wearing Spanx or some shit. They're wearing push-up bras. They have spray-on tans. I mean, who the fuck knows what these women are doing to themselves? Now it's worse than ever, man. Never seen anything like it. I live where I live. It's like I walked into fucking Instagram. It's ridiculous. So, to me, what do you got, man? I mean, I see guys putting makeup on their face today. I'm not judging them, but it's interesting. But you got your hair. You could grow some facial hair. You could sit down in the sun, maybe get a little tan. That's it. We got nothing. So you want to glue a little hair in your head, I don't think it's going to be such a big deal. Think about it like that.
No, yeah. I mean, I think that's in my case, I don't think, I mean, I'm not saying I'm never going to do it, but mentally I'm far away from that option. I mean, maybe as I
understand that.
Towards,
it's a fucked up option. Having to even think about that is a fucked up option. But I still think if you're showing enough scalp to have a hair transplant, that should be a first option before you have surgery, just to see if you're comfortable.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right, brother, listen, Joe he's out. I could see it. He's about to pass the fuck out. So we're going to call it a night.
One eye's asleep.
Yeah.
Carlos, thanks for calling, man.
I popped up YouTube and you guys were on the show, so I was like, let me try to call you guys too. But yeah,
well,
I know you guys probably.
Oh, appreciate that. Thank you.
It's all right, hey man. We're here. This is the shit that we're here to talk about.
You guys do. And thanks a lot for all the advice, option. I think it helps a lot of people. I mean, I've been going in for years, so.
Well,
I still listen to you guys.
I'm glad. Thank you for your patronage, and I'm glad we're able to help you out. All right, man. Have a good weekend.
No, thanks a lot, man.
Take care.
We'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you, Carlos.
Look, everyone else who is holding on, I do the show on Joe's feed. He runs the fucking shots. He's got to go.
We've been on for an hour and a half now, or almost.
2.5
Time to
hours.
go. We're almost 2.5 hours, yeah.
Right.
It's all good, though. It was a good show.
Yeah,
good calls.
Very good show. I know, but I could tell when you get hangry, and we got to, when the hangry.
I'm not hangry.
You're not hangry?
Well, I'm a little hangry.
All right.
I need a sandwich.
It's so funny. Everyone's calling in now. Guys, sorry, man. We got to hang up. So until next time, first of all, I want to congratulate Joe on his successful solo live broadcasts.
Thank you.
They're good.
The problem is, like when I go live, I have no way to test, like the video I'm doing a reaction to. I have no way to test how that sounds.
Why not?
To the audience. I guess I could do a test on like my other channel. I guess I could do that. But I also don't have a whole lot of time to set that up. But yeah, so
you just tested you're just testing your system. You can hear exactly how it's going to sound.
No, it sounded just fine. It sounded just fine. I was playing it on my system, but when it came out through YouTube,
you got to record
there was
it.
that little bit of an echo.
You do the test, you record it. It'll sound exactly what you stream is exactly what you record on this software.
Record? Okay, I'll try that. I think I actually wait. Did I record it? I think I recorded it. I'll play back, see if that's true.
You're freezing up, so
Yeah,
now
I believe you, though.
now your internet's all fucked up. All right, brother. Good show, guys. All the information that you need is in the description on Joe Tillman's official hair transplant channel, which is hairtransplantmentor.com. Subscribe to his fucking channel already so that he can have more subscribers.
Hit the like button.
Hit the like button. He's doing a great job with all of his stuff. I am going, oh, by the way, subscribe to my channel, which I haven't used. I put up some stuff years ago, but we're going to start doing this series where we're going to be speaking to fucked up hair transplant patients.
That should be the name of the channel. Fucked up hair transplant patients.
Not a bad idea.
Hair Transplant Podcast is the name of the channel. Hair Transplant Podcast.
Joe's going to put the link, if he can, in his chat right now.
Yes, I will do that right now.
And do me a favor, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Let's make it grow. I'm going to put some effort into it this year. I know that I've slacked on my own social media presence. What was it? Was it Larry Hagler said? It's hard to wake up in the morning and run in the cold in silk pajamas, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So I have to say that as I see the industry continuing to devolve, and I say this every year, I'm going to be doing more of this and that, and then I'm just like, you know what? I'll just do the show with Joe, and we'll help a few thousand people, and that's it. But I do see just putting a little effort into Instagram, how that's affecting people's lives. At least 5 people in the last week, maybe more, it could be more, I have to count, said that they pressed the pause button, essentially, on a hair transplant. So that little effort is already changing people's lives. So, we'll make it work. Yeah. So subscribe to that channel. Guys, until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.